Hello and welcome to the agenda on Labour Social. I hope you can hear us. I hope you can see us. Having a bit of tech problems here. No, it looks like it's going through all right. How you doing, Phil? Did you have
I'm
a
all
late
right.
night last night?
No, I
No?
actually, bizarrely, managed to get to sleep. And so I just happily woke up at 5:30 this morning and started
Yeah.
checking the results.
Oh, I didn't go to
It
bed
was
till
good.
after 5:30.
Yeah, that's when I got off. So it was all great for me.
Viv says hello to all. Hope Graham has had the quick nap. I was too busy doing thumbnails and stuff. I'll have a sleep this afternoon, I think. But yeah, the in the last hour, the result has come through for Tees Valley, and unfortunately, Ben Houchen has won being re-elected as mayor of Tees Valley,
Yeah.
despite allegations of corruption.
But
Um, but
it is worth pointing out a couple of things. First of all, Labour got a hefty swing anyway. It was about 13% or something. Labour's swing in the Northeast is not that great anyway, because it's not like their target area. And Reform UK weren't standing. Now, it's disappointing because there's two ways to look at any of these results. There's what it means for the result itself, completely in isolation. It's
yeah,
disappointing because the Teesside Freeport really needs the books opening up. And that
mm,
would have been really easy to happen if we'd have had a Labour mayor and a Labour government. Whereas
yes,
now the problem is Labour government involve itself, it starts to look like party politics.
right,
Um,
right,
but in terms of the other side of it, because we're also looking at these, and a lot of people will be looking at these as what can we read into the general election? And there will be lots of spurious things said. But the thing you can read into it is Labour made gains, and they're
yeah,
making gains in the local individual councils that are up for grabs here.
yeah.
So Houchen is going to basically be a Tory oasis in the northeast very soon.
Yes, which is good. And Ivan wants to know why on earth have the people of Tees Valley voted for corruption? Thank you very much for the super chat there, Ivan. Now, Ben Houchen went out of his way to not be seen as a conservative. He's very
Yeah,
much he was basically running as an independent.
yeah.
When the result came through, he wasn't. He was the only candidate not wearing a rosette
Yeah.
for his party. He knows how toxic the Tory brand is at the moment, and he went to some lengths. And Andy Street's done the same thing in
That's
Birmingham,
right. Yeah.
in West Midlands. Sorry, they've distanced themselves from the party. Name recognition goes a long way, I think, in
Yeah,
these
absolutely.
mayoral
So,
contests.
I mean, Professor John Curtis has been saying himself I mean, lots of people have been saying it. It's fairly obvious. You don't have to be a professor that you can't read that much into mayoral contest anyway, because the
Mm,
personality is actually really important.
yeah,
It is also about the part. I mean, the reason they're not standing as independents is because, yes, they benefit from the party machine ordinarily anyway. Um, but the personality counts for a lot. Whereas if you have a lot of elections lumped together, say the local elections, and you're looking at general swings towards and away certain parties and where they are, that there's a lot more to be read into that in terms of the general election.
yeah, yeah.
So
And I think,
Houchen is popular. I don't know why. Well, I mean, I sort of do know why. I mean, this is the same part of the world that hung a monkey as a French spy. But Houchen
I did mention that last night.
and Street, when it comes to it in the West Midlands, are personally reasonably popular in those areas. So
Yeah,
their name does count for quite a bit.
yeah, yeah. Given that the Blackpool result was a pretty much foregone conclusion,
Yeah.
although if that it resulted that kind of 26% swing is repeated
It's
around
the
the
third
country.
largest swing since the war,
Yeah, yeah.
from Tories to the
If
Labour
that's
anyway.
repeated around the country, the Tories are toast. But do you think that Houchen's re-election and the very good chance that Andy Street is going to win in the
Yeah.
West Midlands, do you think that's enough to throw Rishi Sunak a lifeline, which means that he's going to avoid a leadership challenge?
Oh yeah, I think that's more than enough. In fact, there was a post by Conservative Home, and they regularly poll Conservative Party members, and they are actually well regarded for being able to. It's very difficult to poll party members unless the party does it themselves, which they almost never seem to do. But Conservative Home are recognised as being very good at polling party members. And they asked a question some days ago of their sort of sample. Do you think Rishi Sunak should be replaced, whatever happens? Do you think he should be left in place, whatever happens? Or do you think it depends on these results? 63% said, don't replace Rishi Sunak, don't care what happens in these local elections. So if they try to replace him, first of all, there's lots of reasons. And this Conservative Home Post was very honest. There's lots of reasons not to replace Sunak, not the least of which is they don't actually have anyone to replace him with. But they'd be going against what the members want, because the members are obviously the same view. It's like, what's the point at this, this late on? What is the point? And it's not like, this isn't like getting rid of Theresa May for Boris Johnson. There is no equivalent of Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
Not even Boris Johnson would be a Boris Johnson in this case.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think there might be an idea for us to do, if Labour Social really takes off later this year, do you reckon we should start doing stats and stuff for Labour? Because they're going to do it themselves.
Yeah, but it's quite difficult to.
You'd love it. Think of all the spreadsheets, Phil.
Yes, but it's how to get the data. How do you get the data for party members?
Yeah, that's true.
Not that I really like putting too much emphasis on that anyway. I'm actually someone who sort of, although I am a party member, I'm one of these people who would say, actually, Graham Brady's attracted a bit of flack recently, chair of the 1922 committee, for saying that party members shouldn't choose the leader. I am of the same view. I don't think party members should choose the leader. I think it should be for MPs because they understand the job and they understand the personalities involved.
Johnny Copperhead. Sorry, I was just going to stop you there, Phil, because Johnny Copperhead has just dropped in an absolutely gargantuan £100 super chat. Thank you so much, Johnny. Saying, it seems that Plum Duff and I are both trying to outdo each other with our monetary giving to Labour Social. I feel like what Graham and co are doing is an important part of the political debate. There is no arms race. Very good, Johnny. Thank you so much. That is incredibly generous. That is absolutely awesome. Thank you.
Actually, there is one thing I should also point out before it's no longer the case. So I'm keeping an eye on the live results on the BBC. Yeah. And at the moment, the Liberal Democrats are ahead of the Conservatives. It probably won't stay like that. But at the moment, the Lib Dems are on 143 councillors and Tories are on 140.
Amazing.
Having lost 160 and already 3 councils.
Go on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, there's lots of things being pointed out in terms of like expectations. There's a lot of evidence of tactical voting, which is likely to make these results worse for the Tories. But it should also be pointed out, Reform UK have stood candidates in some places and not others. And a lot of the places they've stood candidates have generally been in the first few waves of results coming out. So it may well be that if you were to project how things are going based on the results as they are now, it's probably not going to be that bad for the Tories at the end of it, but it is still going to be worse than expected.
Yeah.
That's how it's looking.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We're getting a lot of love for Johnny in the chat here. Holy cabbage, Johnny. Labour Social's getting some serious money today. That's from Gallifrey and Wren. Johnny, you absolute hero. That's from Glenn. We've got Michael Warnock, all capitals. Graham, look at chat. Johnny being epic, which I love. AMH Carter, Kara, says, wow, Johnny Copperhead. And lots of nice Johnny Crikey. And Mike Clark saying, can I have £100, please? Yeah, I guess. If someone wants to give Mike £100, I don't know how you'll arrange that. But yeah, sure. And Leslie saying hi from Scotland. Hello in Scotland. I feel we're leaving out in this whole discussion because there were no elections in Scotland. But there will. But there will be. Well, there's not going to be because they have a new leader.
Oops.
And they're not going to have an election, are they? By the looks of things.
No. They wouldn't really have wanted that. That would have been a bit mad.
Yeah. So I'm going to just.
But they are still going to have to come to They are still going to have to give an olive branch to the Scottish Greens because it really makes no difference whether the SNP find a leader or not. It still it's not like Westminster.
Yeah.
where, like, when Boris Johnson became leader of the Conservative Party, he automatically became prime minister, even though the Conservatives were in a minority. It's
Yeah.
because the opposition had not expressed a positive view that he should not be, it was just assumed he would be. Whereas in Scotland, no, there has to be a formal vote.
Yeah.
So they still need like the Scottish Greens to vote for them. But you would assume that the next leader, looks like McSweeney, is is going to is going to have to come to some sort of arrangement with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I imagine that is going to be the case.
I do. I think they're going to say, "Oh, sorry, we cocked up there with Humza Yousaf, and we're a new guard now. We're not going to talk about the old guard."
Well, it is the old guard. McSweeney, of course, is literally the old
Yeah,
guard.
he was a
Come
deputy leader,
back.
wasn't he? Was he
He
deputy
was the
leader?
leader. He did a bit of a Harriet Harman a while ago, where he
Right.
sort of took over as a caretaker.
Right. Okay. Okay. Emma Price, thank you so much for the super chat and the great news. Very tired, Emma. Did poll watching and count for Cumbria
Oh
PFCC
yeah,
and Ulverston council elections? Went red.
Cumbria. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, I
went
was going to
red
say.
first. Labour PFCC since its inception. Council in control of Labour now, pretending to work now. Thank you so much for the super chat, Emma. That's really kind of you. And yeah, great result there in Cumbria.
The Cumbria was a very big one for Labour.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it does show this. I mean, the Tories. I mean, I think that Rishi Sunak is probably going to cling on, but they are just circling the drain now. And
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Someone's asked for hi, Sean. Sean, hi, Sean. There you go. I gave Sean a hi, and also Paul's pointing out that Johnny and Plum Duff are the dark money behind Labour Social. Give them each a seat in the Lords. So yes, we'll when I'm in charge, I'll give you both a seat in the Lords.
I mean, if I was in charge, there wouldn't be a seat in the Lords.
An unelected legislature for life. I just give out like phony, what are they called? Like, you know, like Count Binface or Colonel Sanders or something. You know, where they don't really have a title, but they kind of give a title. Like, someone's a doctor, they got a PhD, but they can't actually do medicine. just to confuse people. Pikachu says, I think Swinney is going to be coronated. He's the only candidate standing, and Kate Forbes isn't standing. I don't really like her, mostly because she sounds like a small C conservative, which I agree with. And Michael Warner says, Leadsom claims Houcham's victory is a testament to the government, despite Houcham trying to distance himself from said government.
Precisely. But I mean, this is party politics. They'll do it all the time. Keir Starmer basically said, "Oh, this tells you nothing about the concern." I actually thought that was it. It can come across as sour grapes. He probably shouldn't have said anything. He probably should have said, you know, disappointing, but we've made gains in the general area, which is absolutely true. Yeah. So for as far as the general election goes, Houchan is very soon going to have to be working with Labour. He's going to be surrounded by Labour MPs.
Yeah. Absolutely. Johan says you could buy a title from the Principality of Sealand. I think if that's the thing. Yeah, probably. If you want to be on it's not an oil rig, is it? It's a platform in the ocean that they declared its own country, and it has its own stamps and currency and things. It's quite fun. Feeling left out up here in Scotland. Would love to be booting a Tory scumbag out of office, says Pete's Music. Well, you will get the chance.
Later this year.
There are a few Tory MPs up in Scotland. Not many, but there are a few.
Unfortunately, they're all likely to stay. In fact, you may end up with more.
Oh, really?
Because
of the split of the progressive vote?
No. Well, yes and no. It's just one of these weird situations where, because the SNP was so successful at the last election, they took some seats from the Conservatives, and indeed the election before. But the net effect is, because the SNP vote has now declined, come the next election, there are some SNP Tory seats that the Tories could win back.
Yeah.
So Scotland, ironically, which is hardly a Tory supporting nation, ironically could see the only place where the Tories actually gain seats.
Wow.
But, you know.
That's somewhat ironically. But hopefully, with a little bit of tactical voting. And
Yeah,
there
oh,
was someone
yes.
having a go at Josh today, saying, "Oh, you got this one wrong, where the Greens it was Greens or Labour, and they said you could vote for Labour." But I don't know, on one that looked like the Tories were going to lose that badly, I think they would have said, vote with your heart,
Yeah, they
vote
would have
whatever you
done.
want,
Yeah.
because then but obviously, with literally over 1,000 seats to recommend who to vote for, it was a lot of work. And plus, they had the issue of the boundaries moving, because
Yes.
we've had
Yeah.
all our constituency and ward boundaries
There's quite a few. There's
distributed.
several ward boundaries changed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Jeff True wants to know, how did Houchin win? He is so clearly a crook. Yeah, but
But he's not in that area. He's not seen like that. Someone actually mentioned earlier he was deemed popular for saving the local airport, something my local Conservative MP failed to do. Nick Fletcher failed. He's actually trying to campaign at the moment for, I vote for me because I'll restore the airport. And it's like, yeah, who was presiding when they closed it? Just remind us of that, Nicky, would you? Whereas Houchin actually saved his local airport, so he gets kudos for that.
I wish he didn't. I mean, I
Well,
wish he didn't get kudos.
well, yeah, but nonetheless, those are the sort of local issues, and unfortunately, there's not enough people in that area
Yeah.
recognise that he's just basically that Lord Houchin. He's been ennobled, hasn't he? He has,
Yes, of course.
he's basically been feathering his own nest and selling off public land for a couple of pints of beer.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So as things stand, Labour are now on 400 councillors. That's up 67. The Lib Dems are on 149, and the Conservatives are only on 143. So the 1-2 is now Labour and the Lib Dems.
Yeah, as I say, it won't stay like that, but it's hilarious at the moment.
I mean,
And it
that's the
might,
result I
maybe.
want for the main election.
That it would actually be hilarious if it did stay like this. I mean, it's not impossible.
Yeah, yeah. Claire Moody's got the police commissioner for Somerset. She's Labour. That's great news.
See, it is actually possible that Labour could win all of the others. Like they're polling to win the North Yorkshire one, which is Rishi Sunak's stomping ground.
Yeah, yeah,
And YouGov have been pretty close on the polls as well. They were actually bang on with the Tees Valley one.
yeah, yeah. I think
So
that was a bit of a foregone conclusion, wasn't it?
well, the
That
result,
the
yes,
Tories
but
were going to
not
win
the
that one.
specific percentages. YouGov got it exactly right.
Yeah.
So if they get a few others that are exactly right, then it's quite interesting because they had Sadiq Khan on for a stonker of a win in London. And yet, the latest, there's some people on the right wing are trying to start a rumor today. Do you know what it is?
No.
That Susan Hall's actually won. And what's utterly ridiculous about this rumor is counting doesn't even start until tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Like what happens is they sort of the votes are what's called verified first thing today. That's when the rumor came out. So before anything was done with any votes,
Yeah.
they started this rumor. I don't know why. I don't know why, how it serves them any good purpose. Because when the results come out, aren't they going to look a bit stupid? And
Yeah.
if Khan does win by the margin you could suggest, which I don't think too many people think is credible, it seemed insanely generous to Khan. But if he did, they're going to look like proper tits.
Well, yeah, yeah.
She's not going to win, by the way.
Oh, thank God. Thank you for saying that, mate. Because
She's not.
She's just such a horror show. I know, but since Trump got in 2016, and he nearly got in 2020,
Yeah.
and he's running again now, and that Brexit actually happened, and the Tories had a landslide victory in December of 2019. I just don't trust anything anymore. Until the money is in the bank, I don't trust anything. Susan Hall is doing a Trump, says Viv Burgess. Yeah, her campaign was so negative, so racist, Islamophobic, dog whistles. She's consulting with the worst people on the internet, part of Facebook groups that were dripping with racism and misogyny, and she's not a nice person, and she's in groups that have threatened violence against the mayor of London.
Yes.
I mean, Could you imagine if Angela Rayner was a
Oh
member
yeah,
of a Facebook
if
group calling for everyone to kill
if
Rishi
if
Sunak?
if
My
even
God.
a relatively unknown Labour backbencher or even just candidate,
Yeah.
mayoral candidate for anywhere, were to behave in even as a shadow of the way Susan Hall's behaved, it would be called out immediately all across the mainstream media.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Sean saying she creeps me out. She absolutely creeps me out as well. She's just not a great person. Unfortunately, the PCC up in where am I looking here? Yeah, there's a few PCC results that have already come through. We're still awaiting the results here in Durham. We're hoping that Joy Allen, the Labour candidate, will be returned. But yeah, there's a few of them where it looks like the Tories have been put back in, like Darryl Preston in Cambridgeshire.
I,
He's gone back in.
yeah, they will. The thing is, almost all of them are conservative anyway,
Yeah,
because like, who really turns up to vote for a PCC election unless there's something, particularly if there's nothing else going on? Like when I went to vote yesterday, that's all there was to vote on. So
yeah,
hardly anyone will have gone because they can't
yeah,
be
exactly,
asked. And who
exactly.
can be asked? People who prioritize law and order, and those people tend to think that the Conservatives are the ones to back for it.
Weirdos,
So
Phil.
yeah, but
People
that's
who are
so
obsessed with politics. They are, Phil. Could you
so you
imagine
could
them going on the internet every day talking about politics?
yeah
Nutters.
you could still end up with a situation where Labour take a crap load of them off the Conservatives.
It could be good.
But
It
I
could be
don't.
good.
I mean, I don't put too
I'm still
much store on
awaiting a
it.
lot
I
of
won't even
results, though.
mention the PCC elections unless something notable happens. But the only thing that can happen that's notable is Labour winning a crap load of them because they're already virtually all Conservative anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Labour are now on 409, so I'm guessing the results are coming in a bit faster now. Lib Dems are on 151 and Conservatives are on 1445. So the Lib Dems are continuing to beat them in seat shares. Sorry, in absolute number of seats.
Number of
123 of independents. The independents have
independents always do well.
very well. And the Greens have done quite well as well. They've got 37.
Yeah, the Greens will be expected to do quite well.
Yeah,
Reform UK so far have none.
yeah.
They might have one or two.
Johnny, oh, hang on, press the wrong button. Johnny Copperhead says Trumpian election denialism at work in London. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there. And Jack says, do you think that Starmer, thank you very much for the super chat, Johnny, thank you very much, Jax, as well. Do you think that Starmer and the wider Labour Party need to be more clear and firmer on their stance on Gaza, despite saying what most other parties are saying?
So this is quite an interesting one to bring up. So first of all, should Labour have been better with their language? Yes, of course they should. However, there's a certain narrative going around which is completely false. So what people have done is they've got, like, for example, Labour have lost Oldham, right, which has a significant Muslim population. And so people are going, in these areas, well, there's like Muslim population and Labour have lost ground to the Greens. That's because they're Gaza stance. But the beauty of local elections, unlike a general election where you can't possibly know this, in a local election, you can see ward by ward results. And
Yeah.
you know which areas have where the Muslim population is concentrated and which ones are not. And actually, where Labour have been losing the bulk of their votes to the Greens are in non-Muslim population areas. So this narrative is false. What has happened is it's actually part of a national picture. So where Labour have had to go to get to the point where they're now going to win a large majority, they have had to win votes in what you'd call marginals, in seats that can swing between usually the Conservatives and Labour, but in Scotland, maybe SNP and Labour. They've had to target voters in those areas, and that has meant having to adopt policies or put emphasis on policies that maybe voters in their strongholds are not so happy about. We know things like, for example, not promising to abolish the 2-child limit on benefits, things like that. So the end result is they're gaining vote share in the marginals, which is how you win power. but they're losing it in areas where they're really strong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what has happened is, although people are going, oh yeah, the Greens have won here, Greens have won there, that's two fingers up to Labour in their Gaza position. It's like, no, mate, where they've been winning it are like white areas, and also where it's been happening is in like the cities, which is where Labour are really strong. So Labour are not risking anything in the general election.
Yeah.
But where Labour have been making gains in these local elections is in exactly the areas they need to target to win the seats that will allow them to form a government. So actually, yes, Labour have been making losses in some areas, but you have to look, where are those areas? If you want to know what it means for the general election, it's actually excellent news for Labour. I mean, it's never great. Obviously, as Labour members, we don't
Why did
want
you
Labour
say?
to make losses, but we.
Yeah, but why are you saying it's excellent news? Because they're gaining in the right places. You mean?
Yes.
Right.
And they're losing in places where their majority is so large, they will
It
still
doesn't
win that
matter.
seat.
Right. I get
Like,
you.
what's
I
the
get you.
difference between winning a seat with a 20,000 majority or a 25,000 majority?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Patrick is saying it's well-meaning middle-class voters who are boycotting Labour over Gaza. I mean, one of the things that
it
I
may
find
be.
about the Greens, and I don't want to have a pop at the Greens because I like the Greens, I like the SNP, I like the Lib Dems. I've got no issue with them. They're progressive parties. We might debate on particular issues, but as a whole, I think they're okay. But I think they've got a bit of an image problem, and this is saying this as a Scouser. I feel like they're a little bit posh and cliquey, and I don't know. They don't. They if you want to get someone to become a vegetarian, do you know what the best way to do it is? It's not to show them pictures of animals being tortured or to make them feel bad about the fact that they eat meat or make them feel like a less of a person or a murderer. You're a flesh-eating murderer. No, it's make them a really tasty vegetarian meal and go, there you go. That's how you do it. But I feel like the Greens far too much rely on, the stick rather than the carrot. Ironically enough, being mostly vegetarians.
That may be true. Again, I don't object to this, because if the Greens do become more successful, then they're going to have to start. If they want to carry on growing, they're going to have to at some point start to realise that they can't pretend to be all things to all people. And also, if they want to share power at any point, then they're also going to have to learn to work with others. So I see this as positive. The bottom line is, someone just mentioned a comparison there with Reform UK, and this is absolutely it. The Green Party, and I'm doing a video on this on my own channel later on today. The Green Party are being much more successful than, say, Reform UK, because the Green Party are taking some votes from Labour, but they're actually taking, what a lot of people don't realise, is taking almost as many votes from the Conservatives as Labour.
Yes.
And more specifically, so Labour are losing some votes to the Greens, but the Conservatives are also losing roughly that same number from the Greens. Labour are losing them in the cities, which is their strongholds. The Conservatives are losing them in seats that they could actually lose to Labour, not the Greens.
Yeah.
And the Conservatives, on top of that, are losing 4 times as many votes to Reform UK.
Yeah.
Whereas, so the Green Party are being sort of successful in gaining extra vote share. And on a local level, that also helps them win more councillors. But the Reform UK, where are they? Because all they're doing is taking votes off the Conservatives. So even if at some point in the future they manage to persuade the Conservative Party they have to become this far-right party and they must purge all the wets, all the Marxist socialists, like Rishi Sunak, and they've got to get rid of all the communists, and only allow the pure
billionaire communist.
Yeah, they're pure. They've only allowed their pure conservative breed in there. Let's say they do that, and then Reform UK say, we're happy with you now. We're going to pull all our candidates. All they're doing is giving the Tories back their old votes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they haven't taken them off anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much to John Hart in the chat there. Has dropped in a super chat. Thank you. Having seen an orangutan medically treat himself, is this a future post-political career path for Jonathan Gullis in herbal medicine? Which is very good. But no, he's a howler monkey, whereas orangutan is obviously a great ape, so much closer to humans in terms of evolution than a howler monkey is. So howler monkeys, famous for, if you go too close to them to get a photo of them up in the tree howling, they are known for pooing in their hands and throwing it at you, which is something I could see Jonathan Gullis actually doing at some point. Anyway, Alec Barrett, £5 super chat, thank you very much. Graham, you described Green voters to a T. I used to work with a load. It does, like I say, I think that the heart's in the right place, but it does come across to people who aren't necessarily, green-blooded like Mr. Spock, that it is a little bit patronising and a bit posh and a bit sort of, I don't know, just the way they get their message across, it doesn't make people feel good. So, for instance, if you go on holiday, they'll say, "Oh, did you fly? Did you?" And you're like, "Yeah," because otherwise I couldn't go on holiday with the family because it just costs too much to go overland. I know. and they're like, "Oh, but think about all the CO2 that you're doing." You're like, "But I've got to live in the world." "Oh, you've got an electric car." "Yeah, okay, well, that's good. But what about all the rare earth metals, eh? That being dug out of the ground in the Democratic Republic of Congo? What about that?" And you're like, Jesus, I'm trying to take steps to get to this point. And it's like, oh no, it's like it's never enough. I don't know. That's the way it comes across to me anyway. But I don't want to spend too much time slagging off the other progressive parties when we could be slagging off the Tories for being the most evil, corrupt government that has ever run this country, which is saying a lot. And Patrick H in the chat is saying orangutan is far too intelligent to be compared with
orangutans are quite nice. They're quite pleasant animals.
They're very strong, though. A male orangutan can rip you in two.
I don't think it ever has ripped a human in two, has it?
I know, but they've got the power to. Well, if you really pissed one off, I think they would. But they're very gentle. I don't say animals. It doesn't. If you meet one walking along in the jungles of Borneo, which I once did, there's a, I don't know, there's kind of like a recognition there. Probably because I'm ginger, but they're an incredible creature. They also fish as well. Have you seen them spear fishing?
No, I fed one an orange once, but that was not in the wild.
Oh wow! Well, there was footage of one spear fishing in Borneo. I think this one that's been doing medicine is it was in Sumatra. And the thing is that when they talk about the beginning of human civilization, they some archaeologists they pin it down to a broken bone, a broken leg bone that was obviously healed. Yeah. So other humans must have, helped that human wrap up their leg and got food for them while that leg healed. And that to an archaeologist or an anthropologist or whatever you want, whichever looks at this kind of thing, said that's the beginning of civilization. It's medicine. Yeah. It's looking after other members of your tribe when you of your species when you go when you get ill.
So basically, what you're saying is civilization was not begun by the Tories.
No, surprising as that may sound, no, not by Jonathan Gullis. Oh my God, you could do that, couldn't you? Like Planet of the Apes, but they've all descended from Jonathan Gullis. So the entire 2 hours of the movie is just them throwing shit.
They won't be able to talk.
Yeah, it's just them howling and throwing shit at each other. Super chat, thank you very much, Johnny Copperhead saying ook ook. And also,
go on, sorry.
Foxing Clogs, thank you very much for the €10. Here's a peace offering from a posh green, not a foreign agent. Brackets. Thank you so much.
Gullis would be more like the apes in
I feel bad
a Space Odyssey, wouldn't he?
Yes. Yeah. Beating each other up over their monolith.
Yeah.
Which is now a phone. Because you could just have a phone, couldn't you? And we could all be touching the phone, making it work. The next step of human evolution. Anyway, Saragon says in the chat, a more moral, ethical foreign policy, including Gaza, would pull more votes for Labour, should not ignore Iraq effect, which lost 1,000 council seats in several back-to-back local election cycles. And I agree with that, Phil. I think that they could be more robust on their stance in
Well,
Gaza and not lose any votes, but
oh yeah,
gain them.
I agree. Well, the thing is, it's like when you ever ask someone, I did this a couple of weeks ago, and you say, what should their position have been from the start? Never mind, oh, they were too slow. Okay, so what from the start, what should it have been? And then they say this, and they say, right, here's a statement from David Lammy or Keir Starmer from before that date where they said exactly that. So their position was absolutely fine. The way they allowed it to be reported wasn't. They're really bad at like when there's like bad faith actors, they're really bad at getting the initiative off them. So, and they try to be too cute with their language. And the reason is because what they're trying to do is they're trying not to annoy certain groups of voters who aren't ever going to vote for Labour, but they're trying to persuade them to stay home and not vote for the Conservatives. So they're trying to be cute with their language. But these sort of people, they're not used to having to imply these sentiments at all, and I think they're just making a mess of it. But at the end of the day, there's the strategy is sort of working net. People are overblowing the extent of this, but the Iraq war was a completely different kettle of fish, because not only was that something that the UK government was directly involved in, the Labour government was directly involved in it. So that was fair enough, losing a load of councillors over it, even though you could say, yeah, okay, why would you pick a local issue to protest with? People do.
Yeah.
And that was literally Labour's fault.
Yeah.
Well, whereas this has got nothing to do with even the Conservatives.
Well, yeah, I know, but that's what I mean about if the way their comms came across was better and people had more of a grip on what Labour's policy was. Because obviously, I mean, you make videos each week about Labour policy, but most people haven't got a clue. And when Labour make a video about policy, nobody watches it.
Well, no, that is the problem. There are some policies that they would like to get out there, and they're just not very good. But there are also ones where they are deliberately trying to cultivate a situation where some people do deliberately get the wrong impression. It is dog whistling. Some of what they're trying to engage in is dog whistling. And it's just that the dog whistle is not, can you attack that group of people like the Tories when they do it? It's, can you just stay home on polling day, please? We know you're not going to vote for us, so can you just have a nice cup of tea? And they're not good at it. They're not accomplished at it because, they've spent their whole lives not having to try and dog whistle.
Yeah.
There it is.
James has put a super chat in. Thank you very much, James. A bad faith actors like Femi the other night. I don't think
Femi's not a bad faith actor.
He's not a bad faith actor. I'd much rather talk to Femi about this stuff than say Owen Jones, who is completely unreasonable when you try and talk to him about why he feels the way he does. But I mean, from the impression I got talking to Femi, his absolute, to the point of myopia, he is focused on political reform. Electoral reform, and bringing in a fairer system of government in and voting in the UK, which I completely get. I think where we diverge, because obviously we all want that on Labour Social, is the method of that happening, and I think I would like to. I'd like to think that we could maybe bring Femi round to our way of thinking before the election, because he would be a fantastic asset to be going out there and saying to people in constituencies where Labour can win, vote for Labour. But at the moment, he's still a bit about that because I think he's also a bit upset that they chucked him out of the party, which is fair enough.
But they didn't chuck him out of the party. They just didn't let him join in the first place.
Yeah.
But that was under Corbyn.
No, he tried to rejoin when what's his name? When Starmer got in, and they said
when he just got in, because it's the same system. Then it was the same system.
Okay, but yeah, I reapplied to vote for Starmer, and yeah, I got back in, even though I've been expelled. It was like being in school all over again, because I wasn't a prefect. Everyone else in sixth form was a prefect. I wasn't a prefect. They thought they'll take a picture of all the prefects together, but not me, because I was the only one who wasn't a prefect. So I had to sneak onto the photo. So I did a bit of that. Bit sneaky. But Daniel Collinson says, "Can someone please explain why Ben Houchin is popular? I live in the Northeast and I'm totally baffled." I, uh,
I mean, I
name
don't live in the
recognition.
Northeast. I can only read what I read, and I've read that he was associated with saving the airport. Um, he's also associated with what some may just take, in terms of the Teesside corruption. At the end of the
Mm.
day, I can appreciate how the sort of people that would hang a monkey as a French spy would look at it and think it's just Labour smears because that's how it's presented. Um, but I don't live in the Northeast, so I can say no more than what I read.
um, well, I mean, up here, I mean, I'm further northeast because I'm up in Durham. We're waiting on hearing about the PCC and also the new mayor of the northeast, which is a whole new thing, which is going to comprise all around Newcastle and then Durham to the south and Northumberland to the north. So it's a huge constituency. Is it May? What's a mayor? What's a diocese for a mayor called?
I don't know.
Mayoral the T. No, I just made up that word. What's it called?
There
It's
is
not
a
a cons-
word mayoralty
Is
to
it?
describe but I don't think it describes the place.
Oh, what's the place? Because you got
I've no idea.
constituency, ward.
Like
What is it?
town. Usually a
No, but
mayor
it's
is
not a
just an
town,
over
is it?
town.
Because it's two counties and
Yeah,
a
but I don't know how it works in this case.
metropolitan area.
It's not metropolitan, though, is it?
Yeah. Daniel's asking if just call one. No, we haven't got the results for
It
Durham
bloody well
yet.
better not.
He might do, you know.
It
And
might do, but it
if
better
not,
not.
we might get a bit of a weird result where because half the
Oh,
progressive vote um, goes to Kim McGuinness, the Labour candidate, and half it goes to Jamie Driscoll, who's running as an independent,
I mean, I
ex-Labour
wouldn't describe
independent.
him as progressive, but go ahead. Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, we could see a very strange result to this if they split the
Well,
vote.
that is always the case when you've got someone who splits the vote like that. But that again, that will just, however it goes, emphasise the need for sensible tactical voting.
Yeah, yeah. Ben Houchin has only hung on to the mayoralty because he distanced himself from the Conservatives over the last year. Even his campaign literature made no mention of his party. Yeah, we mentioned that at the top of the show. He turned up. He was when the result was announced. He was not wearing his blue rosette.
No,
Did you watch the when the guy from Labour won last night in
no, I
have
was
you seen the
asleep.
footage? Uh,
Yes,
did you see him giving his speech when he won
I
in
saw the
Clapham
speech. Yeah,
South? Did you see the guy standing next to him there with
yeah,
the Union Jack tie on? And the whole way through his speech, he was going bollocks, nonsense, nonsense, shaking his head. That's
yeah,
rubbish. You come on, come on, and he's like just heckling him through the whole
yeah.
like. Except I was like, bloody
Well,
hell, mate!
I know, but you might as well get used to it. It's going to be an MP, so
Oh, but he's trying to give his first speech after winning, and this guy's just like, oh, I'm
he's
not
going to have
having
to.
this.
Do you know what? It's rude behaviour, but at the same
Yes,
time, he's going to have to get used to it.
I know, but I don't know. I feel like maybe they should have a system where the one person gets to make the speech without little heckler behind him going,
Well,
I hate you.
I mean, where do they take their lead from? Watching House of Commons debates, like they behave like chimps.
Well, yeah, back to Jonathan Gullis.
Mm.
We got Tory mayoral win in the northeast, calling it, says James. I really, really hope not. That would be tremendously disappointing. Um, what a couple of things that Kim McGuinness wants to do is first of all bring the buses under the direct control of the local government rather than being run by different
Yeah,
private
yeah,
companies. Bring it back into public ownership, and also restart the short start scheme, the short start centres for young parents or new parents. Which I think is desperately needed. It was a fantastic idea of Labour when they were in '97 to 2010, and
mm.
unfortunately swept away by the Tories because the Tories don't like anything nice. That's why we can't have nice things because you have the Tories.
I mean, what I would do there, if we were to start it up again, I wouldn't just copy the same model. You need to update it because there were things about it. There's with any system there'll always be things that you could improve. So what
Yeah,
I hope they don't do is just try and copy it and instead just go, well, let's update it as well.
Yeah. We're getting a question here about Driscoll, about Jamie Driscoll, who's standing here in the northeast for mayor. Saying Driscoll only got kicked out. SMS Coleman. Driscoll only got kicked out because he shared a stage with Ken Loach by Starmer. Is that really true? And do you think it was a mistake? What do you reckon?
It wasn't a mistake, but also it wasn't just because of that either. He has been sharing a number of anti-Semitic, views. And the way he behaved when it happened as well, he just immediately started attacking Labour. So again, I will constantly have the attitude that no one has a right to be a Labour candidate, that the very minimum qualifier to be a Labour candidate, and I mean the bare minimum, is that you support the Labour Party, not that you are trying to use the Labour Party to give yourself a personal platform.
Yeah, yeah.
At the end of the day, it wasn't just that he shared a platform with Ken Loach. He promoted Ken Loach presenting anti. It's not like Ken Loach's latest film. It was specifically Ken Loach saying, "Oh, the Holocaust didn't really happen, did it?" As we are told. That's slightly different.
It's so problematic, isn't it, when you've got someone who's, especially someone who's an artist or writer or a director who, in later life, starts spouting this horrible stuff, and it's just like, oh my god, what?
But I mean, you can separate the two out. I'll still watch Black Books and Father Ted. You don't have to then agree with Gray Linehan.
Yeah, but they're still
And
involved.
Ken Loach, you can still say he's an absolutely brilliant. He produces brilliant films.
Yes.
But I won't want to have a pint with him.
Yeah, true, but yeah, but no, I'm just saying it's sad. It's sad when you get people like
well, it's sad if anyone has these
John
views.
Cleese, who was quite progressive in his day, and now he's just
Well, he sort of is and he isn't. Like in some ways he still is, in some ways he's not. Again, it's just like people can be different. I think there is a fundamental difference as well between people with whom you can disagree or people you will feel are very wrong, and people who actually go out trying to hurt people.
Yeah. We've got Christopher Bowles saying there was no official reason why Driscoll was blocked from the long list. And also talking to people here in Durham, in possibly in Labour, their attitude is a little bit like, well, it should have been left up to the members up here rather than central Labour.
No.
Decided.
The choice of candidates, if you choose a wrong one, then that affects the whole national strategy. The leadership absolutely must set the guidelines for who should and should not be a candidate. That's not the same thing as saying the leadership chooses all the candidates. That is them saying what they do is they apply a vetting process to exclude certain ones because it affects the national performance.
Yeah.
So, what the national leadership must do, otherwise it's not Labour. Like, if you want to support an independent, support an independent. There's nothing to stop these people standing. Driscoll stood as an independent.
Yeah.
Had he stood as an independent before he became famous by using Labour, then he'd have never got anywhere, right? So he's already used Labour, and but no, the leadership has to take responsibility. They are the leader. Ultimately, if Labour fail in the general election, who takes the rap for it? The leader. Can the leader say, oh, well, it's actually the fault of the regional parties for choosing shit candidates? No, everyone will expect the leader takes the fall. So if you're going to make the leader take the responsibility, you have to let that leader have the power to determine the strategy.
Yeah.
So that has to mean we're going to exclude these types of candidates. Now that, you still get a choice. I voted for my local candidate for this, in the CLP. I didn't get the one I wanted, but we had a choice, and it was a very varied choice. It wasn't like 3 Starmerites at all. In fact, none of them were. We had a real choice. They just excluded any. I mean, I don't know that anyone was excluded, but in theory, they would have just excluded anyone who was going to raise red flags that would have caused. I mean, look at the way the Mayoral have been going on at this Angela Rayner story, and it hasn't worked again. But the way they've been going on about that, imagine if they actually got their teeth into something real to attack the Labour Party with. It wouldn't just be about that local area. It would be across the country.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that yeah, it's bloody politics, isn't it? That's why I hate it. Captain Bart Roberts. One magical evening, I found myself in a hotel room getting pissed with a mad Scot, and even loonier Cumbrian, Terry Pratchett, James Blish, Alan Moore, an American sci-fi stroke comic writer whose name escapes me. That sounds pretty. That sounds like a good piss up. And Alan Moore's the guy who wrote Watchmen and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which we don't talk about because the movie was so bad. It made Sean Connery retire from acting. From Hell, and what was the other big one he did? I've forgotten. V for Vendetta, and also the Killing Joke was Alan Moore as well. Fantastic Batman comic. Anyway, enough of this geekery. Loach is a bit offensive to the Northeast, though. Why does all poverty movies have to be set in the Northeast? It's not the only region that experiences poverty, says Gardy. Well, yeah, you got to be careful. That's why in movies they often make up the name of an African country, because they'd rather do that than get a load of shit for having some characters, say, from Nigeria who, are bad in the movie. And then it's like what happened in District 9. Which was a South African movie, and Nigerians were bad in it, and a lot of people in Nigeria got very upset about that because they're like, "You're making us sound all bad now."
Kes was Yorkshire, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So but I
Daniel Blake was Northeast, I think. He didn't direct Billy Elliot though, did he? I don't want to be a miner. I just want to dance. Divo said, in a word, has showing what has gone the way in the opinion polls showed for. Has it showing what I don't understand what you're trying to say here. I mean, is it going to be 1997 again? Basically, that's the question.
So basically, the voting so far, obviously, there's more results coming in all the time, and analysts will be crunching the numbers all the time. But so far, the general voting has been according to polling expectations, but the Conservatives look like they will be losing more seats than expected because it looks like there has been more anti-Tory tactical voting where they've been more vulnerable.
Yeah.
So we could end up in a situation where the actual votes are broadly in line with expectations, but the Tory losses are beyond those expectations.
Yeah.
Quite a bit beyond, maybe.
Indeed. Nova 510 is saying Liverpool is depicted awfully in a lot of movies. 51st State was poor. 51st State was written by a Scouser, though, wasn't it? So, I have a bit of a laugh about it. We had Samuel L. Jackson in our city for a couple of months. That was fun. He was staying at the I think it was the Malmaison. He was staying in down by the Liver buildings. It was pretty cool having Samuel L. Jackson in his heyday in Liverpool. Shame about the movie. Wasn't particularly good. But yeah. Bleak northern films like Kathy Come Home. Do you know what? I watched a movie the other day called Anatomy of a Fall, which was nominated for the Oscar, Best Picture Oscar this year. And I just hated it. I've got this rule about movies, Phil, and it's as simple as this, right? If I'm going to pay to go and see a movie at the cinema, I do not want to see a story that could be a plot line in a soap opera. That's it. That's my only rule. So it needs in some way to be a little bit bigger than that. It needs to be, a little bit fantastical, maybe a little bit, suspension of disbelief, but it's got to be exciting. I don't want to watch a kitchen sink drama at the cinema. I don't want to pay for that. And neither does anyone who goes to the cinema, as these movies make hardly anything in the, I mean, I know this is a French movie, so it's not quite the same, but yeah, a lot of depressing British films come out every year, probably about 70 of them, and you won't have heard of around 70 of them because they're just, I don't think it's a very good way to spend lottery players' money. Anyway, but yeah, I didn't like that film. It was just, I thought there was going to be a big twist. I thought it was like a murder mystery. I thought there was going to be a big twist, Phil. The twist was, cover your ears if you haven't seen it and you don't want spoilers. There's no twist. Literally, there is no twist. That's the twist. It's what you see, what you get. David Welsh is saying Sandra Huller is excellent in that film. I think she's a great actress. I think the other problem I had with it is I didn't like any of the characters, which always makes it hard for me to get into a movie. If you can't relate to any of the characters, if everyone's just Jar Jar Binks or the annoying kid. Phil, are you okay? Are you still there?
I'm still here, yeah.
I've sent Phil to sleep.
I'm not. I'm sorry. I was just trying to read some of the chat.
Viv is saying a psychological thriller, Graham. I know. Cinema
Like
prices are
I
through
don't.
the roof now. That's
I
true.
hate going to the cinema anyway. Like it's like hardly any films I've chosen to go and watch at the cinema.
Oh, I still like the cinema. I try and get out with Ben Chambers at least once a month to go see what's on the flicks. I didn't like Civil War though. I thought it was pandering to the Trump supporters in a year when you shouldn't be doing that. But we'll might talk about that later. And BUFC is saying don't look so serious to Phil, and Casey's saying stay focused, Graham. Well, we're nearly at the end of the show. Is there anything else we need to talk about before we wrap up, Phil?
I'm not sure. Hold
Or
on.
can I just rabbit
I've
on
got.
about movies?
There's lots of things been going on um, today, and again, it's like as results keep coming out, you keep having to check: is the pattern that was emerging still emerging?
Yeah.
I mean, the Tory, Lib Dems are still ahead, but it's not a race. As I say, it's not like just because they're ahead, it's not like they're going to slow down for a bit and then the Tories overtake them. We don't know until all of the results are out.
Yeah,
And
that's
there's
true.
still a lot of results to come out.
Well, the Lib Dems are still ahead of the Conservatives at the moment,
Yeah.
which is nice. And Labour on 442 councillors, and 51 of 107 councils have declared.
But, yeah. So, I mean, there's still a long way to go. And then the mayor, the thing is, the mayoral elections, though, are probably going to go. I mean, we know Howsham's won. Street's probably going to win, if we're honest. The combination of YouGov gave him like a 2-point lead, and they got the Tees Valley ones bang on. And then you've got to factor in, voter ID. Now, maybe there'll have been a major push on tactical voting, so it could still be in the balance. I don't think that one's known until tomorrow, though. I'm not sure. I seem to remember the West Midlands.
Yeah, the mayoral contest. I think
that one's tomorrow. The London one, obviously, but for that one, it'll be a bit like the Blackpool South one. It won't be about the result; it'll be about the scale of it. These rumours about because of low turnout, it looks like Susan Hall may have won. I've heard a rumour. It's like bollocks. You haven't heard anything because the votes haven't even been collected when that rumour came out. Yeah. That sounds desperately implausible. I'd be really curious to try and think what advantage they think they're going to gain from that. Given that the results will be no, or are they going to try and do a Trump and when it comes out, go, we reckon a load of votes have been fiddled here because we heard that Susan Hall had won, and now you're saying Sadiq Khan won by 20 points. This is ridiculous. I think there's been some shenanigans, but that doesn't sound like it would be their MO to do that. And the big take home will be, and this is what Conservatives will be really shitting themselves. Anyone who knows how campaigning works in reality knows that you need boots on the ground. Money can't pay for that. You need your local activists to go out and about and cajole others to going out and about. And the people who ultimately drive those teams to do it are your local councillors. And after today, or after this weekend, the Conservatives are going to have maybe 500 fewer, maybe more than 500 fewer of them. So that means that come the general election, they're going to have way fewer people going out campaigning for the Tories.
Yeah. Good. And
they know this. The Conservatives know this. In fact, the guy who wrote that Conservative home piece made mention of it himself. They know that it's going to mean they've not just lost those councillors. Some of those councillors may still turn out. They may have enough loyalty to the party to do that. But they're going to struggle to persuade their friends and family to do the same. Because absolutely. they will see it as they've been screwed over by Sunak. So why should they go out and campaign for him? Because that's what they'll see. They'll see some of these local councillors may have lost their seats because they personally weren't delivering. But quite a lot of them have lost because it's a reflection of the National Party.
Indeed. Michael in the chat saying Northeast Mayoral maybe in the next 15 minutes. Unfortunately, we won't be broadcasting them, which is a shame because I would like to be get an instant reaction to that. But never mind. I've literally got it on my phone at the moment. I've got the Northeast Mayoral results there on my phone, so I'm just kind of refreshing it for when it comes up. But yeah, I might go and watch the BBC now for a little bit. And Lee saying, "Told you all Housham was going to win." Did you? I didn't. I'm sorry, Lee. I missed the comment, but yeah, it was a bit of a foregone conclusion. Yeah, so there's some love coming in for Green Book, which is the movie that won the Best Picture Oscar, I think in 2018. I think, which is a very good book, very good film actually. And also, someone saying that Forrest Gump was crap, which I agree with. Not just because I didn't like it that much, but also because it beat Pulp Fiction and Shawshank Redemption to the Oscar in 1994. But also the fact that it made people think that being stupid was somehow connected with being a good person. Like, the more stupid you were and the more you didn't know what was going on around you, that, you know, the idiot savant type of thing, the more wonderful and the holier you are. And I don't think that was a good message for people back in the mid-90s, because then we got Big Brother, we got The Apprentice, and now
I don't think we can blame that on Forrest Gump. I can draw a line. I'm drawing a line, Phil, from Forrest Gump to Brexit, because people said it's okay to be stupid. I'm with the inside out message of it's okay to be sad. When, you know, you need to be sad, it's okay to be sad. That's okay. But I don't think it's okay to be willfully stupid and be proud of it. I don't think Forrest Gump was willfully stupid. He just had learning difficulties.
He had no idea what was going on around him.
Yeah, but that wasn't willful. And also,
but he had these magic abilities.
I do blame the rise of what you might call reality TV, which is not, you know, nothing to do with reality, on like the dumbification of society. I do attack things like Big Brother. I think they opened up a huge can of worms.
Well, it's putting idiots on a pedestal and going, look at the idiot, everyone. And everyone's like, oh, I wish I was an idiot.
Yeah, but I don't think
I'll be famous too.
I don't think that's Forrest Gump's fault.
I do. Savax is saying, Graham, do you have enough coffee to host the Labour Social tonight? Yes, I do. I've got an almost unlimited quantity of coffee here to keep me up. So yes, I will be. I'll be along for Labour Social tonight at 9:00. Phil, are you about, or are you?
No, Jim.
Better things
tonight.
to do.
Yeah, I'm off to the gym tonight again.
I'll try. We'll try and get Aid Thompson on the show tonight, and with any luck, I mean, if everything works out perfectly, you might have a situation where you watch Aid Thompson at 7:30. He'll push you over to Maximilian at 8:30 for his show, and then at 9:30 you'll come over for the Labour Social. There you go. And yes, Happy Days jumped the shark when Reagan got in. It literally jumped the shark because Fonzie jumped over a shark. He did a ski jump over a water ski jump over a shark. That did happen. Hence the name. It came from there. Also, Mork and Mindy was a spin-off of Happy Days.
Yeah,
true story.
Yeah. Or we could argue Karate Kid, because the guy who played Miyagi, I've forgotten his name now, Marita, he played at one point in Happy Days, he was like the sort of person running that club thing.
Yeah.
And he did a bit of the old martial arts every now and then.
He ran Arnold's, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. It's all connected. It's all connected in the wacky world of, I don't know.
Although Mork wasn't very nice in the Happy Days episode, but then he was a good guy in Mork and Mindy.
Viv is suggesting I have an afternoon nap. I'll put on my sombrero and have a siesta. Yeah. It's quite sunny today. I feel like I should go out. For a walk.
It's not warm though. I've been out a couple of times today.
Oh God, it was freezing last night. Last night I had to go and get a coat while I was doing the show because the heating's not on, because it's obviously not winter anymore, is it? But it's bloody freezing. Anyway, so yeah, I'll be back at 9:00 for the Labour Social. Phil, are you doing a Labour Vision on Sunday?
I probably will find something to do. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, right. So look out for that. That'll be going online at 4:00 on Sunday. And yeah, I'll be back again on Monday morning at 9:30 with Morning Brew. And until then, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your comments. Don't argue too much in the chat. I know this is a politics channel, but I suppose it can't be avoided. But be nice, be respectful. And also, thank you so much for the super chat. And the super chat, and especially Johnny Copperhead. That was phenomenal. £100 super chat, just unbelievable. So thank you so much for that. And until tonight, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.